Alright, so I was wondering, how familiar are you with the violinist argument?
Not at all.
You know, the violinist argument for, like, the violinist argument for pro-choice?
It may be something I've heard. I've certainly never heard that title for it.
Like, basically this idea that there's a society of music lovers that hooks a violinist to a woman, and basically the idea is to show bodily autonomy the over the right to life.
What's the idea? Is she supposed to be allowed to kill the violinist? What's going on here?
Well, basically what happens is that the Society of Music Lovers has kidnapped this woman,
Yeah.
and they've attached her to this unconscious violinist who is suffering from some sort of disease where he needs to be attached to her, and they keep her attached to him, to keep the violinist alive. And so, they inform her that that she has the option of separating herself, like unplugging him from her, but if she does that, he'll die. So
Yeah, so there's multiple problems right on the outset. First of all, the kidnapping of the woman assumes rape, right? Which is an extraordinarily small percentage of abortions that take place. So already the analogy is off the wrong side because in the vast majority of the cases, the woman consented to having sex, which means she consented to having a baby inside of her that's dependent on her. Another place that it fails is the violinist, if left to his own devices, will die, right? And her unplugging him and him being left to natural, nature taking its course, he'll die. That's not the same thing with a child inside the womb. If left to its natural course of life, it will grow up and become be born and then be healthy, assuming obviously no horrible diseases or anything, but generally speaking, and it'll grow into an adult. There was something else I was going to say that,
eventually die in 80 years.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, that's an extraordinarily terrible analogy. I don't know where somebody's trying to go. Plus the analogy of the abortion itself is wrong because uh, it's like saying, okay, they're saying the woman can unplug herself. Sure, she can unplug herself, but that's not what we're talking about with abortion. We're talking to her picking up a giant shears and going over and hacking the violinist to pieces, therefore ensuring that he'll never wake up from this a coma or whatever disease it is. So yeah, this analogy just isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it funny, like, people could always, even Peter Singer, who is probably one of the leading pro-abortion advocates, who even basically advocates for infanticide, even he says that the premises don't follow, where he says, because he's a preference utilitarian, and he says that people have an obligation to bring about the better goods. And so he says that the woman would be obligated to stay attached to the violinist and not kill him because that
I
would bring
mean,
about a greater good.
well, it depends. Do we know for a fact that in 9 months the violinist is going to wake up and be completely cured of his disease and fine?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I imagine if he is, that would be a good argument. I would say it would be pretty stupid, like, and pretty immoral to kill like, especially if we're assuming that this violinist did not know ahead of time, like he had it no will, or saying that if in the event that I go into a coma or I suffer from this disease, I want the Society for Music Lovers to kidnap someone and attach them to me. Now, if we're just assuming that these people that kidnap the woman are just nut jobs and the violinist had no say in it at all, like, it would seem pretty like punishing the violinist for the crimes of someone else. Um, So I've always said that it's. I mean, you could always go for that. Yeah, bite the bullet because it seems pretty stupid to kill someone that's completely uninvolved with the crime. It's sort of like you see a guy that robbed a bank, and instead of actually capturing the guy, you just choose to shoot like some guy that's happening to stand by the bank.
Oh, the audience probably lost us by now, but
Yeah, I'm just saying because it doesn't make it the analogy is not at all comparable to what an actual pregnancy and an actual abortion. No, the woman doesn't have any obligation to this person. She's this guy has a disease that's killing him, right? Okay, so she's kidnapped. She's plugged into this guy. Well, guess what? She didn't create that life, and the analogy isn't even comparable to a scenario of rape because even in the case of rape, the child is an innocent bystander who, if left to its natural devices, will grow up, will mature, will be born, and will be just a normal kid like everyone else. The forcible act in the case of abortion is killing the person, just like but a forcible act in this case wouldn't even be the killing of the person because the disease is what's killing him, not her unplugging herself, right? Her unplugging herself while her life may somehow be sustaining his and even healing his doesn't work because she's it's not the act of unplugging that's killing him. It's just the act of unplugging that she's removing her life source, but it's the disease that kills him. So I think anybody making this argument is just probably has an IQ lower than 75.
Yeah, the name was Sarah Jarvis Thompson, was a philosopher who first put forward this argument like 20 or 30 years ago. And they also make the difference about like you have to remember that this violinist is a random stranger to this woman.
Exactly.
That's not the case with the unborn. That's the woman's child. Now, while it's easy to say that I don't have the person doesn't have an obligation to any stranger off the street, it's pretty hard to make the argument that someone doesn't have an obligation to their kids.
let's just be honest here. We're members of the patriarchy trying to suppress women's rights. We're not pro-life or pro-birth, and fuck them well the rest of their life.
Oh yeah, I love that. You're not really pro-life unless you support insert social program here, free healthcare, free schooling, free daycare, free everything. Yeah, you can't really be pro-life unless you somehow support all of our idiotic policies.
And I'm like, well, when I get told that, I just say, the right to life does not mean the right to be cared for by other people. I'm like, my saying that if someone put a gun to you, I would put my own life in risk to save your life, because I believe you have a right to life. That does not also entail that I believe you should live in my house.
Yeah.
So you're comparing like two completely separate things that are based on two completely different actions. There's a huge difference between me saying, I believe no one should kill you, and me saying that you can live in my house.
Yeah.
But just tell us, how could you trust a book written by Bronze Age desert goat herders?
Back here, huh?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, obviously, you have to. Let's see.